All right, so good morning, everybody. Another Cute for Teams session. Champions use the teams effectively and with precise and perfect timing. Stacy has joined us right at the intro. That was her plan all along. You're on mute, Stacy.
Sailed right in. That was my plan the whole time.
That's right. That's that dramatic entrance. It's awesome. So yeah, glad to see everybody again today. If this is your first time, this is office hours. This is talking about best practices. This is a community of champions, otherwise known as fellow Teams geeks that love to geek out on Teams. We love it. It's our whole world. Okay, I might be over exaggerating on that one, but you are probably here to either learn more or share. And so, yeah, I like this community. We have good conversations here. So if it's your first time, welcome. And of course, all of these sessions are recorded, as you see here, and available online at aka.ms/cute4teams. So with that said, as usual, we can use chat or you can come off mute. I'd have disabled your cameras, but you can come off mute and ask questions. And I do see one already in the chat about adding an external person as a presenter in a meeting. And I will ask a clarifying question there, Glenn. Are we talking about a regular Teams meeting or a live event? Because I usually get that question a lot for live events. Are you talking about a regular team meeting, 1,000 people or less kind of a meeting?
Yeah. Yes. You know, when you start to key in someone's name, the full name and email address pops up from out of our internal Outlook calendar, but we're having difficulty. I told the user who was asking me, well, just, you know, if you don't get the automatic pop-up because the external person is obviously not in our internal Outlook calendar, key in their email address. And he said it won't let me do that. So either he's doing something wrong or we don't understand.
So if I back up a bit, I will say, you know, if you can get the link to the person by any means, whether it's email, text message, carrier pigeon, I mean, anybody can use the link to get in the meeting and they can be a presenter. So it sounds like this specific challenge is someone who is expecting that name to kind of elegantly show in the gal or in the, you know, the person bot there. But if that, you know, isn't working, you know, as expected, again, just forwarding the email invite if it's there, or getting that Teams meeting link to that person in some form or fashion will allow them to join the meeting and be able to present in that meeting. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, okay. So once they have joined the meeting, because we know we can invite external people, as long as that meeting has not been locked down by the owner, then that external person could just present as an attendee, as long as we don't pre-lock down the attendees in the creation of the meeting. I mean, you know, there's a checkbox for the owner in the creation of the meeting and Teams calendar, mute all cameras, mute all microphones. You know, if those are not checked so that people are not restricted, then any attendee could present their screen, right? Even if they're external.
Right. By default, if you don't mess with meeting options at all, everybody comes in as a presenter essentially. Anybody in a meeting. Yeah. Right.
Unlike the webinar.
Right. So yes, okay. They can turn on, they can share and do those kind of things. But yes, if you are starting to designate who's presenters and who's attendees via meeting options, then you just want to make sure you explicitly make the right people, you know, presenters who you want to be able to do those things. And the last thing I'll say there is an external person may, depending on the meeting, may not get all the bells and whistles, you know, in their like chat area and things like that, but that shouldn't affect necessarily their ability to to come off mute and share their screen. But if you're expecting to be able to like create a poll form or something like that as an external person, that probably wouldn't work.
No, they would just present a PowerPoint.
Yep.
Yeah, and just to, I think this may have been said, but I just want to make sure, drive this home. The external person, that participant, even if you invite them ahead of time, so they're already invited, you're not going to be able to set them as a presenter until they are in the live meeting. Then you can go into the meeting options and make them a presenter or change their ability to be a presenter on the fly in the people sidebar.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
To add on to that, I see in the chat a question about can guests, I'm assuming it's an add-on to the question, but can guests edit files in Teams? So this external person or any external person coming into a meeting, can they edit files? And it kind of depends. In general, I would say no. Your
They have to be a
typical,
member, right?
yeah, your
They-
typical
to
file
edit
someone sharing in a meeting is probably either a file in the Teams area if it's a channel meeting. So it's set, to be shared and editable by team members. The reason I say it depends is technically someone could adjust SharePoint permissions on that file such that it's editable by everyone or editable by that specific guest if they were to explicitly do that. So there is a scenario where it could be possible, but I would say overwhelmingly, I would answer that question. No, the guest is not going to be able to edit the files in the Teams meeting experience, if that's the question. Guests can certainly edit files if they are guests to the team. So I use a capital G guest. That means you've invited them to the team and they're associated with the tenant in a guest way. They can edit files and chat and do lots of things there. But if you're talking a meeting guest, their experience would be different. And so the link you put in there, Carmen, seems like or at least that link is talking about a guest in a team. So yes, they can definitely edit files.
Now, it could be, Ricardo, because those Teams channel files are sitting in SharePoint. If the tenant had their SharePoint governance tightened down to internal only, then even if they're a guest, they may have limited access to that because it would be determined by the SharePoint level of sharing that's set in the tenant by the IT admin, right? If it's set to the level of internal people and guests, which I think the majority of Teams IT admins are going to set it at that level,
Right.
then they should absolutely be able to interact with those files.
Yeah, usually we answer in the perspective of default and general. So generally, Teams is open to those files are open to everyone on the team. Generally, IT admins leave those defaults. So
Yeah.
in general, yes, you add a guest to a team, they can do everything. But that's the nice part about this too. If you're an organization that doesn't like that default, you can certainly still have Teams and Teams collaboration available for everyone in the team. But if you want to lock down for people outside the org, all those at the file level or at the library level or any of that, you can certainly do that. Your DLP and all of your information protection can still apply. So there's a lot more things beyond the defaults that are possible. I really hope Teams users understand that. I know it can be easy sometimes to think that the default behavior you see is the only behavior, and I wish I could share these Teams files with folks outside the team, but it doesn't look that way. But you got to kind of dig a little deeper and understand that all those SharePoint powers are still there. So yes, you can pretty much get out whatever experience you want with a little, little care and feeding. I think I've actually got a couple of videos on my YouTube channel about changing the file permissions of team such that all the team sees everything they want to see, and then some external party only sees one folder, all that good stuff. So yeah, if you know SharePoint, all those powers that you have still apply in a Teams world.
And the versioning of those files is going to help protect the membership of the team and
Yeah.
the, every change will be versioned out. So you can look back at who changed what when and restore old versions and things like that, which is so important.
And in fact, to your point, if you're really cautious about changes to files, and this is whether it's external or even internal, don't forget good old fashioned check in, check out, right? So while versioning helps you see after the fact that yes, Jane came in and changed this at 9:30 on Tuesday, and she made some bad changes, and go back to the change before and all that good stuff. Maybe I want to avoid Jane making that change at all, or at least making it a little harder. So a check in, check out applied on a library means Jane would have to, explicitly check out the file, make her changes, and then check it in with comments in order for that then to become a new version. So that's a lot more formal document management, but that's for folks that, don't necessarily want just wide open collaboration on this file. Maybe versioning is super critical. So let's apply check in, check out so that anytime this thing is touched, and that it's very explicit and people have to actually check in their changes when they're ready, because without that, any little touch of a file is going to get a new file number, going to be logged, which is normally cool for most folks, but for some folks the version number is very important. So so yeah, and so don't forget about old school check in, check out if that's a need. Yeah, we kind of took that question, expanded it out. Everybody knows I'm a fan of SharePoint and file management, so I love all the SharePoint files questions. I see in the chat about we talked about the Power Automate issue I think a couple weeks ago. So I haven't heard any news about when that fix is gonna come out. I don't know if you've heard anything, Stacy.
No, I was just going to throw in the chat the link to the Teams feature guide because it went a little stale through the summer, but it has been updated, and I want to make sure folks who may not have visited in a while because it got stale, I just wanted to let them know that that was back and much more up to date, and we're going to stay in the keeping it up to date flow of things now. So I'm throwing that link in the chat. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's just a simple guide that I work on regularly that reflects the delivery of new features in Teams for the government cloud and tracks pending feature releases as well.
I'll pop that in here when looks like at least one user in the chat is having success with Power Automate in the government tenant. So that's good news. Trying to remember the AKA link for that for your document, Stacy.
Yeah, is it not in the chat yet? It's aka.ms Teams feature guide _GCC. And looks like there's a couple of questions about the deck content. Sean, I'd love to, but I don't quite have the same access to the whiteboard group and what they're developing. So I have to focus on Teams, but if there's whiteboard Teams announcements, you will find them here. I'm going to do a quick search in the Teams Admin Center message center post to see if there's anything new for whiteboard. There's a couple of whiteboard related things. Let's see. The most recent release being that whiteboard is available for external sharing.
Stacy, you missed it last week. We actually showed that now, not for a government tenant, but since this meeting's on the Microsoft side, about 16 folks last week jumped into a whiteboard session, and
Nice.
we're having a good time. So we did see that worked. That unfortunately did not make it to the recording. I was bummed out about that. So that's a little tip there. Your at least today, your whiteboard sessions won't be a part of your meeting recordings.
Good to know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like 10 minutes of just my big face while everybody was having fun in a whiteboard.
So screen capture that part next time. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if you do check Coffee for Teams, aka.ms/coffee for Teams, I did demonstrate that this week as well. Whiteboard, both cross-tenant whiteboard or external, as well as I showed my Surface Duo adding ink annotations to a whiteboard in a Teams meeting. So even your mobile devices can play nicely with that. But yes, it would be good to have a good roadmap to show when all those things are coming to the different sovereign clouds.
Yeah, and I see Brandon's question as well about specific first-party Microsoft apps and their availability in GCC commercial, GCC high, etc. And I don't have a central place to look for that, although I'll tell you the Updates app definitely captured my interest. I agree. I think it's kind of an unfortunate name because if you think about searching for things, if you're searching for an Updates app, I mean, that's not specific enough in my opinion. But I have connected with the developer who rolled that out to propose GCC availability for that app, and I believe it's being worked on. I don't have a potential release date for that, but I'll dig in there, Brandon, if that's one you have particular interest in, and see if I can get maybe an ETA.
Yeah,
I think
one of my customers was asking about it and saw it for commercial, and I couldn't find anything on GCC release times, and I wasn't sure if we put the first-party apps in the roadmap specifically. It looks like some of them are in there, but not all
I
of
think
them.
it depends on, right. I think it depends on a lot of things as to whether it's in the roadmap or not. And that one wasn't. So I specifically went digging. I think I just reached out to the tech community blog, because there was a tech community blog about it, and reached out to that author who pointed me to the right people to ask. And I expressed interest right away for the GCC. So I need to touch base on that one. But yeah, like I've noticed there's things about bookings and shifts and approvals app in the roadmap on occasion, but those are specifically built for Teams. And I think Updates is too, actually, now that I mentioned that. Yeah. So let me just see what I can find out. And unfortunately, I don't know what the determining factor is between when those first party apps appear on the roadmap and don't, but that's a great suggestion. I could make that, give that feedback internally.
That'd be great. Can I send you an email and
Please
so
do.
you can loop me in if need be?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.
Stacy,
Yes.
we had a meeting with Rima Riaz about a month ago, and she said she was working on something like that to where they would identify the third-party apps on whether they were GCC approved. I don't know what status that was, but it was clearly to solve that issue, right? That we were having same issues with that. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'll touch base with Rima and see if she could use any help. I'd be happy to pitch in on that and see if we can't get some documentation across the finish line.
I did see the question in the chat about to do in GCC, and that one I do know is in the GCC. Has been there a while, and I know that because I helped write the tech community when we launched that back a little ways back. So so to do app is there in GCC.
But you cannot edit any Teams to do app.
Oh, right. So you're talking
Yeah,
full like
yeah. I'm talking
tasks.
about because we
Teams
start talking
integration.
about first
Okay.
party apps. Yeah, you cannot.
Yeah. So yeah, I think when that comes, it should come by way of the tasks app on the side, which would be an integration of to do and planner tasks as well, the way it is in commercial today.
I had a question about that too, because Stacy, you had it on your feature guide for a while, the task, and it kept getting pushed, and I don't see it even on the roadmap anymore. I don't. An update on that would be helpful because I've been tracking that too.
Yeah, and you guys will be the first to hear when we know, because I'm in the same boat as you, just trying to track down the understanding from the engineering side of what was at one point we were told it was delivered. And I think there's maybe a miscommunication or a misconception about how tasks might have landed in the government cloud. And so we've been trying to articulate what we see in a GCC tenant versus what the expectation might be and get that clarity so that we can actually have it delivered. So stay tuned. It's one of those that I continue to push on. So tasks and to do not being available in Teams for sure. I agree with Ricardo. They will probably be one of those wonderful, beautiful butterfly moments when they both land together. And we'll all celebrate for sure. Trying to find my thread on the updates app and see if I can determine the GCC availability.
Hey, Stacy, while you're looking for that, what about Loop? I'm so eager to start having that.
Yeah, I'm eager too. I've enjoyed having access to it just internally. So there it is. It shows up there, and it looks like that particular one doesn't appear to have been updated since March. Let me take a look and see if there's anything in the last couple of days that reflect new info. I think the last they said was November.
The roadmap at Loop and Teams chat is looking like May.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's quite a ways.
And look, it was last modified August the 3rd. So that's a new update.
So you got quite
Sorry,
a while for that
Melody.
one.
Looks like that one is taking a little bit of a delay too.
Now, Loop in general in in government cloud, would that be different? So Loop in email, for instance, I guess this isn't it isn't calling out GCC. Yeah, I was just wondering if maybe Loop in general would be coming, even if it didn't have Teams integration. But I'm guessing you all aren't seeing that like in Outlook or anything like that. So looks like it may be a bit of time for that one. Trying to remember the URL for Loops. That would be a URL you could check to kind of see if it's there. And I know it's not loops.microsoft.com, but I can't remember because those loops that you create in these different areas, they sit in a place where all your loops, kind of aggregate. I just can't remember what that was called. I'm checking another tenant here. And they also sit as Fluent files in your OneDrive, I think. So that would be another thing to check is if you have any Fluent files there. But anyway, according to this, it looks like May for Loop in GCC, in Teams in GCC. Got a couple more minutes here. Any other burning questions out there?
Has everybody tinkered with Viva Insights?
I have. I'm really liking it. Sorry, I'm driving too, so I'm mostly staying out of conversations in the meeting today.
Yeah, that's okay. Melody, I think I'll share out, since we have a few minutes, the observation that you made with me yesterday about Viva Insights. So one of the assets in Viva Insights that I really appreciate is the ability to have it automatically schedule you some focus time. One of the things to keep in mind, though, and again, this is a credit to Melody to bring this to my attention so that I add this as part of my spiel when I talk about Viva Insights. Part of the beauty of the focus time is that it sets your status to do not disturb, which is a wonderful thing because then technically you can focus, right? But what if you need to always be available for your boss to call or for some key person to be able to break through your do not disturb? You can set priority levels in your privacy settings in Teams so that even when you're on do not disturb, if your boss is trying to reach you or some key personnel is trying to reach you, you can tell Teams that you want these people to be able to get past that do not disturb. So you'll find that in your profile. And actually, Ricardo's clicking along with me. This is just a key thing to remember if you're going to take advantage of focus time, that you'll want to make sure you have set your priority access folks so that when they're trying to reach you, they get through regardless. That was a great tip, Melody. Thank you for prompting me with that.
You are welcome.
The other thing I like about focus time is because to me, this is an interesting conversation to have with folks, the concept of presence and whether or not you honor people's presence. I've seen people and even organizational cultures that basically ignore do not disturb. They ignore the red busy. They chat when they want to chat with you. I've seen other orgs that try to, be sensitive to that. If I'm busy, or certainly if I'm, do not disturb, and I try not to chat with you. And now you got a new one focusing, which again, I try to honor because that means someone has explicitly blocked out time trying to, get rid of the noise. And so I want to honor that too. So, yeah, it's interesting to kind of hear some folks' responses to that, but I like the fact that we have now a new label that lets me know what that person's trying to do. Whenever I see somebody focusing, I just in my mind have this image that it's just been a rough week, and I'm trying to give myself some time to catch up, and I don't want to mess with that. So try my best not to bother them at that time.
So we use the Teams phone, and the one thing that I found out is it also blocks all your incoming calls, which is a little surprising for me at first. I mean, so people could be dialing to a phone number, right? And so they have no way of seeing my status, but it won't ring, and it'll automatically forward that over to voicemail. So it's just something to be aware of. It caught me by surprise, right?
Yeah.
It's a good thing. It's exactly what you want, but.
Yeah, and the other thing to remember is, especially in a do not disturb situation or something, when you're trying to consider reaching out to someone in chat, you can go find that person. You can set yourself a notification to tell you when they become available, which is definitely an asset if you're going to try and respect those statuses. This is a good way for you to try and catch them when they turn green. We'll all say at times, hey, we noticed you were green, so we're going to go ahead and ask you this question. And I think that built-in little feature is kind of cool.
Good stuff. Well, we had another great session, everybody. Join us next week, same bat time, same bat channel. And you guys aren't old enough to even know what that reference is. But anyway, Yeah, glad you had a good session here, and we'll see you next week, 11 a.m. Eastern, ak.ms/Q for Teams.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and check out the blog for more content.